Hi, and welcome to Self Care Black Girls, a podcast where we relax, sip tea, and chat about bettering ourselves as black girls. I'm Bibi, and I'll be helping guide you to make better choices in your daily lives. So, welcome back to today's episode, a new one. So I don't really have much to say. I usually ramble in the beginning of these, but I don't have anything to say today. So, today's episode is going to be the next um, part of senior advice. Today's topic is deciding where to live, which, as a freshman, can be a hard decision. I know a lot of people are ready to get all out of their parents' house, as far away from home as possible, but you also want to be smart in making those decisions on where to live based off of whether. Well, I'll get into it into the episode. So today's episode, like I said, is going to be on deciding where to live. The first major decision in deciding where to live doesn't really involve much of a choice from you initially. If you're the school that you decided to go to, first it depends on whether the school you are attending offers housing. I know a lot of tech schools don't offer housing, which I mean is in a sense understandable because that is usually a 2-year program, so it's not really it's not really a normal thing for people to attend to expect housing from a tech school. Plus, usually the people who are attending the tech school usually live within the area, so there's that. The next thing, if your school does offer housing, are you required as a freshman to live in it? My school, the way it was set up, was your whole first year, you had to stay on campus. That means fall and spring semester, I believe. Definitely in the fall, and now that I'm thinking, I'm not sure if the spring was required, but definitely in the fall, you were required as a freshman to live in on-campus housing. So you didn't have an option as to whether you could get an apartment or not. But I'll get into that a little bit later. So check with your school, see if you are able to live off campus or if you have to stay on campus. Going back to whether or not you could pick where you want to live. Like I mentioned, I go to a pretty big school, so there are multiple different places on campus that you can live, different styles. You've got traditional, where there's a communal bathroom, there's suites, and then there are apartment styles. Cost efficiency, the best one to live in is the traditional with the communal bathroom. Then, of course, the suites, and then the apartments being the most expensive one. But like I said, it's up to your budget, what you can fit into your what your scholarships will cover, and whether how much you'll have to pay out of pocket if scholarships don't cover everything. So, going with the cost, we'll come back to the other thing, the one of my other points. Going with cost, let's talk about on-campus housing first. If your college or university offers on-campus housing, look at the different options that they have if there are more than 2 or 3. See what is tends to be closer to where your classes take place. That's something you want to consider. If money is a big thing you want to keep an eye on, see how much the different buildings cost, because I know living in the different buildings on my campus, there is a price difference in all of them. Make sure that the building is co-ed or male only or female only, whatever you want. And see what type of building it is, traditional, apartment, suite style, whatever it is to fit what you want to live in. Because remember, you're going to be living here at least a semester, so you want to make sure that you feel at home in this building. And referencing my school again, I know a lot of the buildings offer tours. You can go through the building, kind of get a feel for the environment, and maybe they'll have a room or two open so you can see what it looks like to live in the building. You know, what a normal room would look like. Sometimes there'll be rooms people actually live in. Sometimes there'll be just empty rooms in case they have transfers or whatever. So, take a look, make sure everything that you want fits within your budget, because everything that comes in your building that you see adds to the cost of how much that building is going to be. So make sure that everything you're wanting is fitting within your budget. And then the other really big thing that you want to consider, whether you're living on campus or off, is whether or not you want roommates. I can say the plus to living on campus with the plus to living with roommates on campus is that you'll have somebody to talk to. You'll be able to make friends. There's always somebody that you're coming back to. Hopefully there's somebody that you connect with, that you are comfortable with, that you trust. If not, talk to somebody. They can get that switched out for you. As far as living off campus with roommates, they can make rent a lot cheaper, but you want to be careful when you're living with roommates like that. You want to make sure that wherever you're living off campus with roommates, whether or not your roommates pay their rent doesn't affect you. Because if it does, and let's say one of your roommates doesn't pay rent and nobody else has enough to cover theirs, all of y'all are getting kicked out. So you want to make sure that wherever you are, everybody has their own independent leases, and if somebody doesn't pay, it only affects them. Versus living on your own on campus, like I am this semester. I don't have a roommate. In fact, I'm in a single room. I have my own bathroom. I have 2 closets and, a pretty big space. I mean, it's nice. I don't hate it. But I don't have anybody to talk to. I mean, I don't have anybody in the room with me. So I'm usually always on the phone or on FaceTime with somebody because I don't have anybody in here immediately with me. And it can get kind of lonely. I'm not going to lie. It can get very lonely in here. But it's okay. I'm almost done. And then off campus, the same thing applies. But you also have to consider you're paying rent by yourself. Which, I mean, if you can't make rent, then I guess that's on you. You don't have anybody to blame but yourself. But then here you are, depending on your building's lease, you might be on the verge of being evicted and homeless. So there's just a lot that you want to consider when deciding where you want to live in college, because all of those factors, whether you're going to have a job to pay for all of this, whether you're getting parental help or some type of financial help to pay for all of this, plus everything I mentioned previously in this episode tied to where you should live. Big impact on where you should live. So, now that I've given you all something to think about, I want to thank you all so much for listening this week. That's all that I have for this installation? No. I don't know. That might be the right word. That's all that I have for this senior advice episode. Once again, thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you back with another regular episode next week. Bye. Thank you all so much for listening this week. If you have any questions, comments, stories, or tips and you'd like to share them with me, email me at selfcarebgirl@gmail.com. If you'd like to help other people find this podcast, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes to help get the word out. If iTunes isn't your preferred method of listening, you can also find us on Spotify, YouTube, and many more streaming platforms. If you'd like to interact with other listeners or keep up with announcements and giveaways, you should follow me on Instagram at selfcareblackgirls. Join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/selfcareblackgirls or follow me on Twitter at selfcarebgirls. Don't forget, you all still have the option to donate by either visiting my Patreon link or my merch link in the bio of my Instagram and Twitter. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you all next week. Bye.